Hello, and welcome to Creating Movement Monday. I'm your host, Representative Chelsea Branham, and this is a space for the elevation of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color's voices to talk about contemporary issues that we are facing. Today, we have a very special guest, one very dear and near to my heart, Kendra Clements. And she is going to tell you a little bit about herself, and then we are going to jump into the questions. So Kendra, can you give us a little intro?
Sure. Well, I wasn't prepared for that. But first of all, thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with you. My name is Kendra Wilson Clements, and I'm a member of the Choctaw Nation. I have a couple of things going on. I'm the president and founder of a consulting firm called We the People. It's a management consulting firm that works pretty specifically with minority-owned businesses and our native tribes here in Oklahoma and throughout the country. I also am a co-founder in a nonprofit organization called Matriarch, and essentially our mission and purpose is to provide direct services and resources for our Native women and children across the state of Oklahoma. We have two chapters, one in Oklahoma City, one in Tulsa. About 100 members and an alumni that probably spans across about maybe 75, 80 members as well. We started Matriarch in 2015 and continue that good work. I'm also a teacher, a wellness teacher, Indigenous wellness teacher at Sovereign Community School. It is here located in Oklahoma City, and we established that school last year. So just came out of that with a year behind our belts, and we'll be moving forward again this coming school year, whatever that may bring us.
Awesome.
That's all I know.
Like most of my dynamic guests, you are doing lots of work in lots of different spaces. We're fortunate to have you in all of those spaces that you're in. So I appreciate the work that you do, and I will go ahead and jump into the questions. You ready? All right. So the first one is, we're going through a lot right now. This time period that we're in is very different from many others. It's also very similar to the experience for many people that they have had for many, many years. So tell us kind of in one word, what encapsulates your feeling in the moment that we're in right now?
I would have to say hope. That's the first word that came to mind was hope. I'm by nature a pretty hopeful individual, and I see that in all of this pandemic and this, Black Lives Matter kind of civil rights movement, if you will. I see a lot of hope.
Well, I love that. You definitely are a hopeful person, and that definitely contributes to me many times. So I appreciate that sentiment, and I am also hopeful as well. I think that this time feels a little different than other times, and I am excited for what we might be able to accomplish in the moment. So speaking kind of about the moment that we're in, there is more attention now on the struggles of different communities of color. Not that those struggles haven't been there forever and ever, but they're raised to the consciousness of kind of the general public right now. So that being said, how do you like non-Indigenous people to show up for you in the work that you're doing and in this moment?
I think the best way that non-Indigenous people can show up is by action, right? I appreciate the words of support. I appreciate the sentiments. I appreciate the extension of here's a shoulder to cry on if you need it. I even appreciate to a certain extent, recognition and apologies. I appreciate the feeling and emotion. I really do. Don't get me wrong. But feeling and emotion are not exactly doing the things that we need to be done. And for me, the best way to show up for an Indigenous person, a non-Indigenous person to show up is through action. Taking action, doing what you say you're going to do, and not just speaking in, right? Just being there for us. There's been a lot of talk in circles that I'm involved in right now, and discussions that I'm involved in right now, particularly as it relates to a sit-in for the Land Run Monument coming up this Saturday. What we're asking for and what we all have kind of agreed upon, the best way for our white allies to show up for us is to kind of toe that line, right? Be a buffer for us, be a voice, not for us, but be a voice. Go back and talk to your people, right? Help us in that way, because we've been talking, for 500 years. And folks aren't listening, right? And so I think the best way to support is through action, doing what you say you're going to do.
I can't agree more. There's not even anything that I can add to that. So I'm going to move to the next question.
Okay.
From where you're situated, how do you think we can really galvanize this moment and create more than the awareness, right? Exactly what you're talking about. We need more than just words and apologies. How do we get the types of change that Black and Indigenous and other communities of color are literally dying for and have been? How do we make the leap from that awareness to those changes being made?
This is a really interesting question, because I sat with an organization today, client, in a boardroom with 7 of their company's leaders. All were white. And the conversation that we had about this kind of goes as follows. When we discussed, and mind you, I'm teaching them, leading them, training them on diversity and inclusion, which was their idea. They recognized just a few short weeks after George Floyd was murdered, they recognized what's going on across the country, and they kind of looked inside their house, their corporate house, and decided our house is dirty. I'm looking around, we're all white. Our clients are white. We're white. Our employees are white. We have a problem. We want to do better. Help us. And so we're sitting in this boardroom today, and we're talking about diversity and inclusion in a real way, because diversity and inclusion has been taught-ish for years and years and years, but not really taught. I think it's just checking a box, right? So when I teach this, I'm digging in. We're having really difficult conversations. People are uncomfortable, and that is exactly what I want to have happen. One of the members said, "What do you think about this Black Lives Matter movement? It seems like people are, they're rioting in the streets, and they're protesting, and they're tearing things up, and they were vandalizing and looting and this and that. And do you think that's the best way to go about that?" To which I replied, so I am a 20-year activist turned advocate, I guess you could say. I started out in the streets like that, banging my hand, yelling, screaming, and I realized at some point in my journey that my message wasn't being heard and or received the way I wanted it to be heard or received. And so as I started to evolve, my message and the way in which I delivered my message evolved. I am absolutely not taking away from the things that have happened, quite honestly, I support to a certain extent what has happened, because that has gotten the attention of our public, our community. It got these people to contact me to say, wow, we've got a problem here. We need help. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to say. We just know we want to make some changes. That wouldn't have happened had the series of events, the varying levels of demonstrations and protests across the nation and the globe. It wouldn't have happened. And so my short answer to that, and I can get really long-winded, I know you know, is it took this loud crashing boom, fires in the streets, to draw attention to what I consider to be America's oldest and dirtiest secret, which is how ingrained racism is in our country. It took that. It took the movement for individuals like myself who may step with another kind of message, or who may step with a different way of delivering or bridging or communicating, that allowed me to do my work, right? And so I think that, you know, all in all, and I don't even know if this is kind of answering that question, but that level of awareness at that level has had this really awesome trickle down effect. And right now, I think the best thing that we can do as Black, Indigenous, people of color is we got to ride that wave. We can't stop. I have had more work hours since this movement started than I've had in a long time. And I love it. I'm running on adrenaline. I'm getting hardly any sleep, but I know that's what that's what it's going to have to take. We can't stop. We've got momentum. We got to call our friends. We got to call our family. We got to call our people to this party, and we got to go vote. We got to get our butts out there. We got to get involved in the political process, because that, in my opinion, and I know that I'm talking to a representative right now, that's how we make change, right? The political system. We got to get involved. We got to get in there.
Yeah, I think that is not, cannot be more true what you're talking about, the different levels of the movement, right? You can't just have awareness on its own, and movement building is often built on that grassroots awareness and protest. And you also have to have the policy change and the interpersonal change and the institutional change. So I think that, you know, I talked several times recently with people, and they feel that we've just really been building up to this moment. And so it takes all of those levels of us that did start out 20 years ago, building the movement, to now help usher that movement forward in other platforms as well. So I love that. All right, so we're in the magical moment of the podcast, where I will ask you to pose a question or a challenge to those that are listening. How can they help with this change or in this movement? What would you ask of them?
So if I'm speaking directly to our white community, our white friends, our white allies, who might be asking the question of, what do I do? How do I get involved? How can I help? I have some answers and some suggestions for that. And number one is, if and when you approach a Black person, an Indigenous person, or another person of color, and you ask to help, if we don't excitingly latch on to your suggestion or your extension of help, don't give up. There is a reason for that. We have been told for, hundreds of years now that things are going to change, and I want to help you. But when it really gets down to it, we can't find you sometimes, right? And so it kind of goes back to the action part of it. Do what you say you're going to do, right? Mix up the world in which you live in. Be curious. Go through like a social media inventory, right? If every single person in your world, including your social media world, looks like you, sounds like you, speaks like you, lives around you, mix that up. Start reaching out. Take initiative. That's we need you we need you to help this process. One of the things I've been really hopeful and happy to see is how our this Black Lives Matter movement and the indigenous people, our communities are joining. Like we're going hand in hand, arm in arm, and we are supportive of one another. We'd like to have you too, allies, right? I'm speaking to the allies. Come along with us on that journey, but be prepared to do the work. And that means going back to your people, your family, your friends, and maybe pushing back, introducing different ideas and thoughts. You're not always going to get a good reception, right? But if you're committed and you say you're committed, show us that.
I think that is fantastic. And there's, action is a theme that has come up over the course of the questions that we've talked about, and then also doing the actual work. So I think that those are the really hard parts, right? Saying one thing is one thing, but doing is a complete other. So I love that challenge of actually doing. And I think some of our previous guests have kind of had pretty similar challenges, right? Just do it. All right, so we're gonna wrap up with trying to find where you center yourself and kind of returning to that hope that you started us out with. So what gives you the hope to continue doing this work and to keep going, getting up day after day?
I live, eat, breathe, sleep, dream Indian country. My indigenous people, my communities of color. I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior for change as it relates to social justice. I don't exactly know where or how, how or where I got that, right? Well, I do. It's in my DNA, right? I have a duty and a responsibility to my ancestors to wake up every day and do the very best work that I can possibly do for the betterment, the improvement, and the equality and the equity of my people, and now all people of color, right? I've got a duty. And the thing that really continues to fill me up, especially as of late, is watching Columbus statues fall to the ground, watching Confederate flags being removed from NASCAR or other sporting events or schools, universities, watching these statues and monuments, which were designed for no other reason than to keep people of color in their place, to keep them afraid, to keep them reminded of who's boss, right? And so the fact that these things are coming down across the country, that fuels me, that keeps me going. It energizes me. And even on 3-4 hours of sleep a night, if I wake up and I hear that another monument has fallen to the ground or has been removed, that's fuel to keep me going another 24, 48 hours, right?
Well, I definitely appreciate you spending time with me today, and Love you, love what you do, love benefiting from the work that you do, and love your positive attitude through all of it. And um, if you have any final words that you would like to leave us with, you are welcome to do that now.
Sure. For people of color, get involved in the political process. Please get involved in the political process. It doesn't mean you have to go and be a senator. You can start with city council. You can start with school board. You can start as a representative. You can start, right? But you just have to start. You have people behind you. You have people who need you. You have communities. Furthermore, we have generations ahead of us that need our work, our commitment, our passion now. And that is in the way of the political process, as well as the education system as well. Pick a system, pick an institution. We need Black and brown voices. We need Black and brown leadership. And if you're struggling to find out where to go, or don't know how to get there, or if you need a ride, I'll come pick you up, right? That's what I got.
Love it. Well, obviously, I'm biased, but I think that that is one of the best things that people of color can do, because it's very lonely without their their voices joining me at the Capitol, or some of our other people of color that are serving on city council or school boards, or any level of government. So I echo exactly what you're saying. And for everyone that's joining in, I hope that you got some seeds of wisdom from this conversation, and from Kendra. We really appreciate her sharing her voice. And until next time, we will be creating some more movement next Monday. See you later.
Yeah, yuck, okay.